2 additional speakers, and then we'll hear briefly from Dr. Beasley in this order: Brother Gerald Rose and Brother Kevin Miles.
Good afternoon. When I first moved to Atlanta, I met Mr. Joe Beasley, Hosea Williams, and Reverend James Orange, and I started my activism in Cobb County. They said, Rose, we deal with issues in Fulton County, but Cobb County is on a whole different level. So I started, he took me under his wing. My dad is 80 years old. I seen him being arrested in Valdosta, Georgia, taking the handcuffs. Even though he's not blood related, that's my second father. So I want to know we have his back. And one thing what New Order says, not I, but we, because look at this coalition. We're going to fight to the end. Justice will be served. And again, I hope you all to continue to tell the negative side what the police department is doing, because it's unfair. Remember Katherine Johnson? This man is an icon. I was crying with tears when I heard about this, because that could have been my father. As you can see, justice will be served. And to Mayor and to the Chief of Police, you're on alert. You ask for our vote. Now, when you get in office, you forget about what the real problem is. But now we're going to make sure we get justice. I called you when it first happened. You know what I'm saying? So I love you or whatever, and let's continue to pray for this man. Thank you. Kevin Miles.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to start with what do we know for certain right now? What we know is that Brother Beasley has spent his entire life out here organizing and doing civil rights and human rights on behalf of everybody. We know that Dr. Beasley was not posing a threat to anybody. That would be inconsistent with his history and his nature. We know that he is an 82-year-old man who was on his way to his office, which is just a block away. So if he was on his way to his office as a lifelong human rights advocate who was posing no threat to an officer, on what grounds did the officer decide that it was justified to pull a weapon and put a weapon in Joe Beasley's face? Ordinarily, we're told that people do that because they felt threatened. But in this case, clearly there was no threat. So I want to co-sign on something that Reverend Motley said. What we have is an organizational and a police cultural issue that says that it's acceptable to do this kind of thing to these people in this community, because truth be told, if Dr. Beasley was not an international human rights icon, we would not even know this happened.
That's right.
Right.
We wouldn't know anything about it. So we have no idea how many times situations like this happen in our community, because it goes unreported. So, and I don't want to make light of the threat that officers face. Oftentimes when we criticize an officer for this, we're told, well, you know, we got to make those split-second decisions. That's right. But facts do matter. And I'm going to tell you something that you won't hear. There are approximately 20 million traffic stops a year in America. There are fewer than 200 officers who are killed while executing a traffic stop. Now, that doesn't mean that those deaths are not tragic. I don't want to make light of that. But what I am saying is that the actual threat is less than the threat of being struck by lightning.
That's right.
You are more likely to be struck by lightning than you are to have somebody pull a gun on you while executing a traffic stop, let alone an 82-year-old man who is on his way to his office, which is just a block away. That's right. So I say all of that to say, an apology sounds nice, but it is wholly inadequate. That's right. An apology does not address the police cultural issue that led to this incident and the other incidents that we don't even know about. We need, not only do we need a police cultural response, we need a disciplinary response for the officer, and we also need a policy response for the department.
Yes.
Anything less is insufficient.
Yes,
Action.
Yes,
Action.
At this point in time, Dr. Beasley will give us some brief words, then we'll take questions.
Yeah, just briefly, the police officer did come to the offices of our pastor, Kenneth Alexander, and he apologized, and I accepted his apology. That does not, however, address the issue, and so I've consulted with some attorneys because we live in a capitalistic society, and money answers many questions. But at the bottom line, being a deacon at a church, I know there's sow to the wind, you'll reap the whirlwind. And I think we've lived in a world that have sown to the wind, and the whirlwind is coming.
With that, we'll take questions.
Dr. Beasley, what would be your response if they don't think that this warrants the officer being terminated? If they comply with the training and the things that we can assume that they're going to comply with, what if they say this isn't enough to fire Officer Hanson? What would you say?
Well, you know, I love the mayor. She's a wonderful woman. Chief Shield. This is you know, like a universal thing, and it's not about me really. And it happened to me, and I'm a retired police officer myself.
21 years.
21 years, and I know the use of force. And the use of force would suggest if you enjoy a firearm, you use it. And not only do you shoot to kill. And I thought I was a dead piece of meat. So I hope you'll get another line of work.
Would you like them to release the video? Would you like police to release the video? We've asked them. We're waiting.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's essential that it be released. Because I know what it will show. It will show this sugar happy young man. And I guess the other side of it, he was white, Cajun. And I'm with Dr. King that says it's not about the color of his skin, but the content of the character. But he was the only one that jumped out and put a gun in my face. But then his colleagues, you know, black, and my pastor's face trying to justify that, which is not justifiable.
I was going to say, what did they do? Anything? The officers?
No. So they were with it, and had I been shot and killed, they would they can to protect me. And I just think it's, you know, not because of me, but for others to be, you know, every day brutalized. And I suggest this. My office is in this community, and I'm going to be patrolling this community myself. And if I see an officer misbehaving, there's going to be a consequence. Thank you.
Last thing, just how many other people do you think this has happened to that don't feel important enough to even report it?
Well, I think we can't even count the number. And that's sad indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Beasley, I just have one question. Can you tell us about the emotional toll this incident has taken on you?
Well, I haven't been able to sleep well because I have not had a gun pointed in my face since I was in Vietnam. And I was in Vietnam. In fact, I returned back to Atlanta on the day that Martin Luther King was killed from Vietnam. So this experience with this officer putting that gun in my face, the first time I've been under that kind of situation. So,
Deacon Joe, Bruce had the same thing happen to him in this community.
This happened about 15 years ago. A church friend of ours, John McLeod, he was sick, and I was going to visit John. And I came from Northside Drive out of church and came through this neighborhood. When I came to the neighborhood, I was stopped for no reason at all. And the police officer told me to get out of the car. When I got out of the car, turned around, he had his weapon pointed in my face. He came up to me, grabbed me from behind, pushed up against the car, handcuffed me. And he only let me go when I started naming some civil rights icons in the community that I knew.
Wow.
So I know this happens. I did a report, they did their little investigation, but nothing really came of it. And I know they did it because I was in this community, and I happened to be black driving that night. So when I heard what happened to my mentor and good friend, Dr. Beasley, it just broke my heart and brought back those same memories that I know it's true what happened to him, because he was driving in this neighborhood, in this community, and they felt they could do whatever they wanted to do to him.
Attack.
You a member of Antioch as well.
Yeah, I'm a member of Antioch as well. So.
In conclusion, I mean, we definitely, we all, I think, we're riddled with personal stories of police terrorism here. So just in conclusion, it's a great question about if the mayor or the chief decides not to. We want to make sure it's clear they've already announced that it's an internal investigation. So we're demanding his firing based on the findings of that internal investigation, or to be quite obvious, just the obvious actions. Two, it's come out today that there is body cam footage. I'm glad that the media is requesting it, but councils will also be putting in that request, so there will be another address, and then there will be another address with council as it relates to the legal actions. So with that, there are no more questions. We thank you guys for coming out, and that concludes this press conference. Thank you.